Okay, so our interactive service is about to begin. I love this verse. Again, when it says, when you pray and you go into your room, close the door and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And one of my absolute favorite parables of all times comes from the Chicken Soup for the Soul, one of the very first books that came out. There was a little boy that was very excited who had been saving up his allowance because he wanted a puppy so bad. He wanted to care for it. He wanted to feel that unconditional love. So he's going back to the store where he's seen so many times in the window, puppies for sale, $30. So he's very excited and he goes in there, he opens the door, rings the bell. So the owner comes out and says, "What can I do for you?" And he says, "I've been saving up all my pennies and I really, really want a little puppy." And he says, "All right, well, it's $30." He reaches in his pocket and he pulls out $2.37. He says, "Sir, this is all I have for right now. But I promise you, I will pay you every single week until this puppy is paid off. It paid off in full, the whole $30." And he says, "Well, all right." So he calls out and he says, "Lady." And here comes Lady, the mama, with these 5 little bundles of fur right behind her, just anticipating and excitement that something's happening. Well, there's this little puppy, the fifth one, that is lagging behind all the other puppies. And he's having a hard time keeping up with the other ones. So the little boy gets very excited when he sees all of them, but especially when he sees the puppy that's lagging behind. And he says, "Oh my goodness." He says, "Sir, that's the puppy I want." And the store owner says, "You know what, son?" He says, "You're not going to want that puppy. He was born without a hip socket. So he's not going to be able to run and jump and play like all the other puppies are able to do." And the little boy gets even more excited. And he says, "For sure, I want that puppy." He says, "Listen, if you want that one," he says, "I'm going to give that one to you for free." And the little boy gets very solemn and down and says, "Sir, that puppy is worth every penny that any one of the other puppies are worth. And please allow me, I promise I will pay you in full for this puppy every week." And the store owner, he scratches his head and he says, "Why would you do that when I'm offering this one to you for free?" And the little boy reaches down and he pulls up his pant leg to show a badly twisted leg with braces around his leg. And he says, "That puppy is going to need someone who understands him." And the store owner said, "All right, he's yours, and I'll see you every week." Now imagine the faith of a little boy that because of what he was born with, because of what he's been through, he could see the value in something that maybe someone else might say, not worth it, not worth the $30. Now, I want us all to just kind of take a moment and imagine that that's how we approach our time in prayer with our Father, who's already seen our worth, and that everything we've ever been through has been to develop a heart of compassion. As his book states over and over in the title, that your pain is your credential. What you've been through allows you to identify with other people and to see their worth and not less than any other puppy who may not have a defect. But isn't it true that we all have a defect? And how beautiful it would be that when we enter into a room with our Father, every time that we go in there and we think that there's some hideous guilt, some defect, some fault, that we've got to enter into those chambers in secret with some kind of shame. What if there was no shame to be had, but an excitement that we are worth everything that our Creator created us as? And that when we enter into those chambers in secret prayer, that we don't have to hang our head low in any shame, but just in sheer gratitude and reverence for the fact that we get to breathe, for the fact that just because we've peed in an area where we're not supposed to pee in, right? But we can enter into the chamber in pure innocence and to have God see us as worthy. And that when we enter into that chamber, God doesn't lift up a pant leg, but he lifts up the sleeve of his robe and says, I understand. It's already been paid. The price that you are valued at has already been paid. And because of that, we don't have to enter in shame. And how beautiful that the innocence of us that has been already taken care of when Jesus said on the cross, it is finished. It's over. In our innocence, we can go into those chambers. And guess what a reward would be in those chambers? We're not having to be in shame anymore. It's covered. We're covered. We're covered. And we get to now have the innocence of a relationship with our Father that is no longer asking for forgiveness every single time. Imagine, I mean, I used to do this as a kid all the time. God, forgive me, forgive me, forgive me, all the time. What if he already has when we asked for it and that it was finished? And that we don't have to walk around in guilt. No matter what knee brace or ankle brace or corrective measure or defect that we come in here with, that we get to run in there and say, I'm here. And our Father sees us like the little boy who saw that little puppy with the defect and said, that's the one I want, because that's the one I can use. That's the one I can use. That's the one who's going to be full of compassion because it knows pain.
You know, that that compassion, that connection it's a two-sided coin. I remember when I was studying shame a little bit, and I was like, it's interesting. If a little boy has a truck, a toy truck, and he walks up to his dad who's working, and he says, "Dad, look at my truck," and the father looks at him like, "I'm busy. Can't you see I'm busy?" The boy will feel ashamed. But if a little boy has a truck and he's kind of like looking at this thing and he's a little bit dumbfounded by it, and he goes up to his dad and his dad says, "Wow, look at that truck. That's amazing. You have this amazing new truck." The little boy will also feel ashamed. Almost like, "Oh, I missed it." Now notice what's happening in both cases is there's a disconnect. In one case, the energy is high and the other energy is low. In the other case, the energy is low and the other energy is high. So the connection is where we find all things happen, right? Tamara and I used to teach relationship classes. Why? Because people want to feel more connected. It's really the bottom line. Of all the marriage counseling, relationship classes, we want to feel connected. There's a great video on YouTube of a guy that talks about recovery and addiction. And he says, addiction has nothing to do with chemistry. It's a connection problem. When, in all instances, when people feel connected with family, when they have a community around them, when they feel supported in the value of who they are as a person to other people, that's when they will say, you know what, I'm not going to take drugs, because it's not a question of whether I'm getting what I want or I feel good about myself. It's a question of, does it serve the community? Does it allow me to connect with those that I love? So this, like I've always had, and I don't know, it comes from probably childhood. I've always isolated. I was a monk for 8 years. And I've always sort of yearned for a really deep, abiding connection that was friendship and virtue and kindness and compassion and all these things. And I think, growing up in New Jersey and having, a lot of tough people around and a lot of very, direct people and a lot of direct communication, and being someone that struggled a little bit, I was a little awkward compared to other kids for a few reasons. I had a scar on my forehead. I chipped a tooth, went flying over my handlebars because kids played a trick on me one day and loosened the wheels on my car, my bicycle. And I used to pop wheelies all the time. And all of a sudden my wheel disappeared and went flying over my handlebars. And so my connections were really badly broken as a kid. Gangs, bullies, people playing tricks on me and all. And I really had to struggle with connecting with people. And the thing that I discovered recently is that, I used to be like a professional speaker, right? That doesn't mean I was a good listener. In fact, most professional speakers are horrible listeners. In fact, if you just sit down with them for dinner, have a dinner with them, you can't shut them up. They're just like, you pick any topic and they just go off and, they've got a presentation about it. And yet, if we look at the connection in relationships, connection doesn't happen unless I can step into your world, unless I can see through your eyes, walk a mile in your moccasins, however you want to do that. And even if there's just silence, to appreciate that someone is in silence. And I really struggle on a regular basis with when I meet people, especially with everything going on with the pandemic. I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but there's something happening outside of us. And for me, it causes me the impact, my reaction is to go inside, to withdraw. I don't want to watch the news, and I don't want to, be persecuted for my beliefs about, whether, how to go about my health or whatever. And yet, I've discovered, because I used to actually teach listening. It's funny, and I used to do a lot of counseling and life coaching. I used to do a lot more than I'm doing now. But listening to someone had the most profound impact, more than any advice I ever gave, was just to be able to connect with them. And not to necessarily say, yeah, that reminds me of something I went through, but just to connect and be with them in what they're going through. Even if I can't relate, I can say, wow, I wonder what that would be like. And so, this compassion and caring and this that Tamara and I are talking about, which, and I've been focusing for the last few minutes on connecting with people, but there's something that I used to do. And I was saying, I used to have a lot of really great little habits exercises that I would practice that really had me feeling good during the day. And one of them that I haven't practiced lately, because I've been kidding myself about, I'm too busy, right? What are we too busy for? We got 24 hours in a day. You're going to do stuff for some of it and you're going to sleep for some of it. So just choose what you're going to do. But it's not like who's got the goal. Tamara and I have been flipping a property, and last night she was working really late. And it's like, I felt like I needed to apologize to her because I've been working on it, scrambling, but who's really got, if we just stopped working on the property for a month, it's not like someone would come down on us about it. We've got a lot of other stuff to do. But this one exercise that I used to do, and it's a connection exercise, but it doesn't have to do with anybody else. People used to ask me as a professional speaker how I had honed my skills in training and communication. Those I said, it's really simple. It's an exercise that has nothing to do with any of that. If I'm walking down the sidewalk and I notice a piece of paper, I have a choice. I can walk past it and say it's none of my business, or I can say, you know what? I'm going to go pick that up. Now, I didn't really start to change dramatically because I went and picked up pieces of paper. It's because I went back. There's a point where you basically see something going on in your environment, piece of paper, and you say, nah, I'm too busy, and you walk past it. It's the moments when I said, nope, turned around and went back and picked it up. Or when I thought, wow, I should say this. I'll often say goodbye to Tamara, and I'll realize as I'm walking out the door, wait a minute, I didn't kiss her goodbye. I said goodbye, but I didn't kiss her goodbye. And then all of a sudden, a minute later, she was like, oh, he's back. And I'll give her a kiss. And I'll be like, those are the moments, because think of the difference. Mm-hmm. Walking out the door thinking, I should have kissed my wife goodbye, getting in the car, driving away, and I'm left with that, right? Versus, oh yeah, I didn't kiss my wife, go back and kiss her, and now it's a completely different drive, isn't it? So this one exercise that I've been ruminating on, and the reason I'm sharing it is because I've been getting so much value out of it lately, is just to go back. And there's nothing, even if you say something and you're kidding yourself about because of shame or guilt or whatever, and you're like, oh, I blew it, now I can never, it's not true. There's a way to go back and say, I'm really committed to having, and it's a 3-step thing. It's very simple. What's the vision? What happened? And what is your request? So the vision, I really want to have a beautiful relationship with you. And I did this one thing that really didn't express that really cost a connection with you. And so my request is that you give me another chance. Let me take you out to dinner. Can we, whatever it is, just simple 3 steps. And this is, I learned this especially with Tamara. If I go up to Tamara and I'm like, this is what's wrong, and here's what I'd like to do to fix it, that is a completely different conversation than, honey, I'm committed to us having a beautiful relationship where we always stay connected and express love and compassion for each other. And so this thing happened, and here's what I'd like to do. Can you see the difference? So those 2 things, Tamara's talking so much about that we are so blessed, and yet sometimes I think we forget to bless ourselves. We forget to bless our world, which is our community, right? Because when I go pick that piece of paper up, when nobody's watching, and someone once said this to me, you really, true character is measured by what people do when no one's watching. What are you doing when no one's watching? And that's where I realized when I do that, there's a confidence. And then when I do meet people, I'm able to connect better. I have a confidence to be able to listen a little better. So.
Well, and what's so beautiful too about connecting vertically first before horizontally. So there's nothing that Jesus cannot relate with us because of everything he's been through. And that's part of the scars. That's part of lifting up the sleeves, saying, there's nothing that you could say to me that's going to turn me away from you. Nothing. So we have that bold confidence to go to our Father, Mother, God, and in that intercession with Jesus that allows us to be real, allows us to say what is true, and allows us to feel the comfort without the condemnation. So imagine as we're feeling this vertically, that's something that we'll be able to give horizontally. So it's really difficult to try to feel that connection outside of our connection with our Father.
In fact, that connection, that vertical connection, is how you figure out which piece of paper to pick up. Because if you just go crazy, if you'll be a doormat. If you just pick up say, oh, I got to clean them all up, and destroy yourself with a commitment to perfection. So that vertical connection
Right.
is the source of the horizontal connection. It's how you know, it's you feel first. I don't go back and pick up every piece of paper, but when there's a little voice, that
Mhm.
little still voice says, you know what, that one's for this.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's a sensitivity that's available when the connection is vertically first, right? Because you're not going to be called to intervene in every conflict. No way. I mean, that's for maybe somebody else, but when it is for you, you'll feel it. And there'll be a piece about moving towards that as your part in it. And there's no guilt when you don't intervene or you don't do something because that wasn't your calling. That wasn't your task to perform, right? So there's a my burden is easy and my yoke is light. It's not going to feel like a burden when God calls you or moves you towards a specific conversation, towards a specific task, or a committee to be involved in. You know, we're not called to be a part of them all, but boy, when you feel that still small voice because you've quieted enough, you've been in those secret chambers, God will reward you with something that's going to give you energy, the divine energy that flows like a waterfall inside of you. And it's going to be effortless. It's not going to be effortful. So when you start to feel burdensome towards a committee, a task, or anything, that's because God is not ordained you to be a part of that. And there's no guilt that you need to feel about not participating in something, but pure joy and pure peace when you are a part of something that God has equipped you for. And you can rest in that. And you can say, you know what? I'm not called to help that group, but I am called to help this one because we have the same twisted leg, right? We have the same um, credential that says that puppy's going to need someone who understands him.
It's a difference between
Right.
living what we talk about, living from the inside out and living from the outside in. You know, it's funny, there's
Right.
so many movies about this. And I made it a point during the years I was a monk to study the lives of people that were heroes. Because there's something that happens, you know, you can be watching a sports game or something, one of the movies that we love. And we actually met Rudy Rudinger, who was in the movie Rudy. And, and he was on stage once and we got to talk to him. And he's this awkward guy, just like he was in the movie, but he's listening, he's hearing some other voice. Everyone's telling him, don't do this. You know, it's a waste of your time. You'll never make it, you know, whatever, right? But he's listening to a different voice. He's listening to something he loves. I love football, so I want to play football. And eventually it comes down to, you know, this one shining. He doesn't play a lot of games, but he plays a final game and he's part of a, you know, a final score and it makes a difference. And he gets to have his shining moment that he always wanted. And and this living, we used to talk about this all the time at the beginning of a workshop. We're gonna train you to live from the inside out instead of living from the outside in. Now just take a minute and think about in your own life what it costs to live from the outside in, which is to make sure that you never get criticism because you dressed the right way and you're made up the right way and you said the right thing and you did the right thing for the right people all the time, right? That's living from the outside in. There's a lot of feedback we get. And I'm not saying to eliminate all the feedback. I have a great little formula that I used to practice. Look, when one person tells me something, I ignore it because we used to always give out feedback forms in the workshops, and there was always one person. If you had 50 people there was one feedback form that was like, this was terrible, it was a waste of time, whatever. So we'd always throw out the low one and throw out the high one because 90% of them were shining and like, here's what I got out of this. But there's also the person that's just infatuated or something, and you got to throw that out. But the formula is very simple, is when one person tells me something, I pretty much ignore them. When two people tell me something, I pretty much consider it. You know, it's like, hey, Greg, you're showing up as a little brash or whatever. When three people tell me the same thing, like within this 48-hour period, I'm pretty much going to go with it. It's like that's true feedback. And that's when you have exposure to a group of people. But there's nothing like the inner feedback, right? I mean, think of every statue we've made. Take a hero, someone that you know we've made a statue of. And didn't they live from the inside out? Didn't they say, I'm going to do this, whether it's Rosa Parks sitting on a bus, or Abraham Lincoln that says, we're going to keep this country together, or Martin Luther King that says, we are going to march for equality, or Abraham Lincoln, or Gandhi that says, you know what, we are going to live free regardless of what anybody says. They're living from the inside out in alignment with something that does not cost the community, but that serves the community. It's such a simple formula. And yet in the twisted storm and hurricane that goes on in our mind, we come up with all these reasons like, oh, but I gotta, but I've gotta either, I gotta alter my body shape, or I've gotta get, I gotta get this credential and earn this thing before people are gonna like me. I gotta tell you, everyone that I ever respected as a manager in business or as a success in business, none of them were getting credentials to be able to be heard for how brilliant they were. They did something that was creative and unique, and they really cared about people. There's a great book, Good to Great, where people talk about what does it take. And what they're really talking about is to conduct ourselves with a character where we're really caring for the community. So I've been really, Tamara and I are flipping a house, and there's a lot of opportunities for me to do the thing that's like, all right, how's it going to look? One of the things that I did, which I think kind of blew people away, because I'm sort of, contractor in boxes and squares. We're doing a little safari theme, and I just grabbed, I painted the thing green, and then I grabbed a palm leaf and some spray paint, white, black, and brown spray paint, and I started spraying the outline of the leaf all over the garage. Because I was thinking, because I'm in this kick where I'm thinking, wow, when people drive in here, what's it going to be like for them? And when people walk in the kitchen, what's it going to be like for them? And when people meet me, what's it going to be like for them? And I did this because I was feeling that I had that drove me into a monastery at one point, which was isolating, withdrawing, staying inside. And as you guys know, I'm saying, one piece of the game that I figured out is how do you love bigger? And this is a really cool little tool for how to love bigger in little tiny ways. Is when you hear that little voice, that vertical voice that says, hey, go back. You haven't called your sister in a while. Give her a call. When it gives you that little note, it's just listen to the vertical voice to drive the horizontal voice, not the reverse. Do not let that horizontal voice tell you from the inside that you are no good, that you don't, because the vertical voice has got a beautiful thing for you to do. Always. God don't make no junk. Have you ever seen that poster? The girl is pouting and you can tell she's been reprimanded, and she says, God don't make no junk. It's we all have a purpose. And that's where I find finding mine, which has changed dramatically. Professional speaker. I'm fired in the world of coronavirus. There is no opportunity. It's like, that's it, kid. You got divine disemployment. And so I'm like going, all right. So now, I've had to sort of get clear about, well, I had my identity and it got taken away. It almost was like, for some reason, I've really resonated with mothers who I find have lost a child, right? Either prior to birth or immediately thereafter. If you ask a woman that's been pregnant, are you a mother? If some stranger asks them, are you a mother? They know vertically that the answer is yes. Even though they may have not given birth to a child, they went several steps down that road, and they know what it's like to feel the identity, the divine identity that was given to them for that. And so we all have a divine identity, regardless of what it is. Tamara and I aren't going to have kids, so it's probably not going to be that. But,
are
It's
not going to have
it's true. That's what I said.
kids. What
Tamara,
could
we do not have kids, and we're not going to. And yet every day, it's like Tamara. We have these little ducks that
Mhm.
that like to climb because we live on a lake, and she likes to feed the ducks. It's just her thing. It's just like there's a connection there, and it's a precious thing. We have a cat, and the cat ordinarily, for some reason, it was a rescue. You put the cat in our lap, and the cat will only spend about 5 seconds on your lap. And like Tamara was in the in the bathroom the other day for like a half hour. I'm like, are you okay in there? And I came in, the cat was sitting on her lap for like 30 minutes, just
Mhm.
sitting there.
Mhm.
And so it's really neat when you start to exercise your own connection. It opens up all the synapses in your brain, and you start seeing connections throughout your world. Just like, you buy a new car, you notice that car everywhere. If you take a few steps, you just buy a connection. Say, you know what? I'm going to be this guy now. I'm going to go back to those pieces of paper. It's all of a sudden there's opportunities everywhere. There's connections everywhere. So
Mhm.
I know, Tamara, I love that you are constantly reminding of that vertical connection, because
Mhm.
that's one of the ones when I withdraw, I often withdraw from that too, right? I mean, there's entire religions that profit dramatically off guilt and shame in the face of God. But if you could see yourself through the eyes of God, imagine someone that doesn't pass judgment, that is infinitely loving and forgiving, whose whose son came to show us what's it like to live in forgiveness, right? All the lessons that Jesus had something to do with forgiving and turning to your father and forgiving and never not turning to your father and forgiving, and and it's really cool to practice that self-forgiveness, which is so much easier when you see that you're making efforts to just connect with your community and your
Mhm.
vertical
That's so
connection.
beautiful. So, with that, why don't we go ahead and open it up to our audience? Mr. Dylan, what came up for you today, brother?
I'm kind of a complex person, not only uh, mentally but genetically as well. And all my life, well, maybe not all, but most of my life, I've felt misunderstood by my peers and even those closest to me.
Mhm.
And it wasn't really until the past, like maybe 2 to 3 years, that I started to realize it's not that I want people to understand me. It's that I want to understand myself, because I mean, up until a couple years ago, I had no idea who I was. I constantly tell people I've lived four very different lives, one of which was almost sociopathical. And I thought I was like that, but no, that's obviously not me. And once I started to really understand myself and the way I think, the way I do things, and the way I want to do things, that's when I started that sort of positive reinforcement of be kind of like I was telling Greg this morning, being able to challenge my thoughts. This past week or two, I've been kind of battling with, the hide in me that sometimes likes to come out, but I'm going to remain that jackal and just try and bury that hide as far down as I can. And if that means, battling every minute of my life, fighting that part of me, I will do it, even if it costs me my own life. So,
And Dylan, I want to encourage you to bring every aspect into the chamber, because there's a beautiful acceptance that can be available for all of who you are. And when that acceptance is present, there's not a need to act out on a certain something when it's actually embraced instead of buried.
I think
Mm.
I think I've experienced Mr. Hyde playing the piano from time to time, and I kind of enjoy it. You know, there's
Mhm.
times when it's like you're really going at it. I remember, Tamara and I were here, I think like the third or fourth service. He played Great Balls of Fire.
Oh, I loved
And
that.
we were going nuts. Goodness gracious, Great Balls of Fire. It's like, wow,
It
go
usually
Dylan.
depends on how much caffeine I've had. So
Okay. Okay. No, that's beautiful. And I just want to encourage you, Dylan, because you so many beautiful aspects of you are all of the prism, right? And it's not like you want to go, ooh, I forget that color, right? What if we just embraced every color and just allowed that to be that point of light that comes through in an acceptance that altogether gives that beautiful prism. So thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. And Mr. Jerry, what came up for you today, brother?
Well, it's interesting, the discussion about priorities. One of the things I found as I've gotten older, it, unless I specifically tell myself at the start of the day that you're going to do this, this, and this today, it doesn't get done.
Mm.
That never used to be a problem. It's something that I've gained because I showed Greg my Lieutenant Commander No Slack plaque. That was one of the things that in the battalion, the young officers were told, don't ever tell the commander you were too busy
Mm.
because you'll get a lecture on setting priorities.
Mm.
And so it's really been a change in me and in needing to tell myself to set priorities.
Wow. Wow. Beautiful. Thank you, Jerry. Tracy, what came up for you, sister?
As always, I just want to thank both of you. I feel like what was maybe put on pause this last year with your public speaking has been a blessing for all of us. And so, of course, I believe that you bring that to us every week, and I'm very, very grateful for that. Um, Lots of things came up for me, but one is just again the importance of going back, like
Yeah.
Greg said, and I feel like I've worked harder
Yeah.
at trying to remember that it's okay to go back when we have that that voice, that tells us, and that um, there are a lot of gifts that come from going back.
Mm.
And when we see that and feel that, it's really nice.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there was something else.
It's actually the best part.
Mm.
It is.
feeling of
It
going
is. And we
back
don't
and
get to experience it without practicing.
Right. Right.
And having known you, Tracy, and I know you go back a lot, and you're so you and Ed have blessed us so much, just with so much consideration. So
Absolutely.
Oh, thank
I
you.
figured you'd
We feel the same about
have
you.
experience back.
Yeah.
I know there was something else, but it'll come to me maybe, and I'll share
Maybe
it
after
again.
Ed talks.
Maybe. Yes.
And what came up for you, Mr. Ed?
Thank you. The seeing those pieces of paper and in picking up, going back and picking up those pieces of paper. I think I like Jerry's point about tie that with the picking up of those pieces of paper, prioritizing those. Where I do need to go back and get some stuff done. Maybe I didn't. Do maybe, or at least take another run at some stuff.
Mm.
Prioritize.
It's hard to watch you think about being more considerate, Edward, knowing, knowing you,
Knowing
like, oh,
how
I could have,
considerate.
like I do.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope I didn't create him burning himself out in the next month or so.
Damn those pieces of paper.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's
only the
plenty around-
ones you're called.
There's plenty around unity.
Mhm. Yeah, and and what came up for you, Francis?
Just be myself,
Yeah.
just that every moment count. Good, bad, a difference. Just forgive yourself and love yourself more.
Yeah.
That's all it
Beautiful.
is. Just forgive.
Beautiful. Thank you, Francis.
Thank you, Francis.
And then we'll go online here. Judy, hi, what came up for you, sister?
Unmuted there. Good morning.
Good
Good morning.
morning.
Um, well, those pieces of papers, would that be like seeing your flaws and all? And I can accept mine and live with them just fine. I just don't trust other people to accept them. So I think that's one reason I'm so to myself a lot.
Yeah, it's actually, Judy, it's actually not,
Yeah.
it's actually not pieces of paper that are,
Yeah.
psychological. It's not a metaphor. It's literally
Oh,
just picking up
really?
little pieces of paper.
Oh,
You were saying?
Yeah. And Judy, the most important person to feel good about it, like
Yeah.
Ellen was saying, was acceptance of you.
you.
And
Yeah.
not the outside in,
Mhm.
but from the inside out, because you're already accepted by your creator. And to spend time in that chamber of knowing that in every cell of your being, and not to have it matter if it's being accepted outside or not. Just
Mhm.
knowing you are already.
And Judy, having known you, seen you here with your granddaughter and grandson, and seeing how considerate and how gentle you are, like it reminds me of looking through God's eyes. So if you look at yourself through God's eyes, it's hard to imagine. You're so guileless. You're so considerate, and it's amazing because it makes you really easy to be around, and yet. If you're hard on yourself, you won't be able to handle what other people say about you. But we're delighted that you're here. And I hope that you can
Thank
see
you.
yourself through God's eyes. Because I have a vision. It's, how we have these defining snapshots. I have this snapshot of you sitting in the back of the altar, the sanctuary here, with your grandchild on your knee. And how you hold them and how you love them is like, it's like with such a reverence for their preciousness. And it's like one of those defining photos to have seen you that way and just feeling the love sort of oozing from you. So I hope you can do that with yourself.
And you know what's so neat about this too, Judy, is when you're feeling that acceptance internally from God, you're going to transfer that. Whether somebody's behaving a way that you think's great or not, you'll have that same acceptance for them. Because I think that's part of what has us feel a distance, is when we feel judgment, right, from someone else on how we're supposed to behave or not behave. And when you can get to that space where it doesn't matter how they're behaving, you're going to accept them, they're going to feel that. They'll feel that. So what's most important is that you feel that first.
Yeah, and one of the exercises I gave this morning was about picking up a piece of paper, Judy, but you're probably, because my experience of you is you pick up a lot of pieces of paper. I would practice the other exercise. If one person tells you something, ignore them. If two people tell you the same thing that don't know each other, you could consider it. But if three people, are giving you the same feedback that don't know each other, then that's the only time I would consider, maybe I'm need to make an adjustment. Because I'm guessing your life is full of pieces of paper already.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, thanks,
Sure.
Judy. And Jeff and Mickey, how are you two doing today?
Hello.
Hi.
I think first I want to apologize that we didn't figure out what time it was in time to make it to the service.
Aw,
But
what? Wanted to show you
that's,
the beautiful.
yeah, it happens, I guess, once a year.
Yeah, no worries. No worries.
But I do want to say, I mean, the services are always valuable, and I love what I get one way or another. But not just from the presentation you and Greg do, but from the people that share too. So this is a good feature where we get to share. And I'll tell you what came up for me. If it's not too long of a story, when I was 4 years old, my family got a dog named Shep, and it was like a little German Shepherd. And I really was happy to have a puppy dog. But Shep ended up biting too many of the neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad had to send him off to the ranch where he could run free. I never saw him again. And I became very judgmental about dogs, that they were filthy, they were nothing but trouble, and no one should ever have one. Until I was about 44. So let's say 40 years later. And we were out of town, Mickey and I and our daughter. We saw this dog in the window at the pet store, and the dog tilted his head one way. And then when I tilted my head, the dog tilted his head back. And we started thinking about it. So the next day, we all looked in the paper and we all circled the same ad for Dalmatians. And we decided to go get a puppy. And the story tonight or to this morning, it just couldn't help but remind me of that experience because we wanted a girl, a female dog. And when we got there, there was only one left that was female. And they said, you know, we don't think this dog can hear. We're pretty sure she's deaf. And they wanted $100 for the puppies. So I said, well, what if we don't care if she's deaf? And they said, $50. So we bought the dog. And I don't know if how I've described this before, but somehow that dog taught me how to love. She lived to be almost 17, and we named her Silence. So that connection came through the strangest format, but it was through having a puppy. And the story today, it just reminded me that sometimes we don't know where we're going to get the input we need. I have no idea. But if we just kind of let it happen, and that's what we did, we let it happen. So, and I think I've said this before, if I ever get down to my last $50, I'm going to spend it on a puppy. So
Aw,
I'm sorry, Mickey's not here to talk right now, but
right.
it's been great. Thanks.
Well, but you
Awesome.
you
Thank
have some
you,
family
Jeff.
barking in the background to give you support. So
That's
We only have 5 dogs now, so
awesome.
way to go.
Thanks for sharing,
Thanks,
Jeff.
Jeff.
Thank you. And Lori, what came up for you today?
For me, it was just knowing what pieces of paper to pick up and listening to your inner voice. That's what I'm trying to discern is, what do you go back and pick up and what do you let go?
Mhm. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Lori. That's
Cool.
awesome.
Yeah, just practice.
Yeah. Oh, and then Ray, what came up for you, brother?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
God bless you both.
Thank you.
Uh, like Jeff, I was moved by your story of the young boy and the puppy that he loved so much, just not caring that he wasn't perfect in the eyes of everybody else because he had a walking deformity. He would never be run and active like the other puppies, but the boy looked inside himself and something spoke to him and told him that that was the puppy he should have. And that's just a reminder to me that we're all worthy, regardless of how we view ourselves, regardless of how others view us, that we are worthy to be loved and honored and cherished and respected, regardless of what our outer appearance may be. So thank you again for the lesson. I did enjoy it, and Greg, the audio was much better today, both on the music and the lesson. So thank you very much.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. That's a first.
That's been
Usually it's
an
something's not working.
important
Were you able to hear?
priority every week. Were you able to hear Dylan
Were you
well?
able to hear Dylan well?
And Jeff
Yes,
says
I could hear
thumbs up
Dylan
too.
well.
And piano?
Thumbs
Yes,
up.
that
You
was
know,
that
Oh,
was good
that's
too.
great.
Awesome.
Yeah, great. Greg and
I'm-
Ed took out a guy that came here and helped us.
I'm going to sleep 12 hours tonight. It's been
That's
years.
awesome.
Thank you so much, Ray.
Thank you.
And thanks for
Yeah.
coming along. You know, I really appreciate. I was wondering. I was like, well, I wonder how the sound was, and you just picked up. That's
Excellent.
you picking up your pieces of paper without even seeing them. So thanks.
Awesome. Awesome. And Padre, hey Dad, what came up for you today?
Well, all I have to say that I think is one of your best sermons that you both have had, especially with Greg. He got into quite a bit of depth in his experiences in life. I love both of you so much. And the thing is, I have a privilege of being with you every day, which is a godsend.
Yay. So true,
Way
Dad. And
more
we
our-
have the privilege of being
Yeah,
with you.
way more our privilege.
We
Padre.
enter lots of chambers with Dad. Awesome.
You are a blessing.
Yeah, love you, Dad.
Love you, Dad.
Love
We
you.
will see you
Thank you.
soon.
See you soon. Okay. So with that, awesome. We'll go into our offertory blessing. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. Okay, Dylan, let there be peace on earth. Mm.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Our prayer of protection is that the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and wherever God is, all is well. Thank you guys for being with us at Unity Center Bakersfield. You can always tune in on our website. If you've missed any services, you can see a recording there. So thank you guys for being with us. We love you. See you next week.
Ciao, ciao.